We really didn't start off with the intention of building a physical space. We actually went out and talked to students that had been involved with this and said, what would have made your experience better in our program? And what we realized is that they needed a space to interact with people that were other creative people on campus who were thinking about doing entrepreneurial activities and really understand what it was about. Since the Lassonde studios have opened, we've had a dramatic increase in the number of students participating with us. One of our goals was, as we looked at our program after 10 years and we had been ranked in the top 25, we looked at the participation level. One of the probably most dramatic things that we saw was the year before we opened the building, we had about 100 active startup teams working with us. So a group of students that said, here's our idea, we want to start a company, and they start doing something about it. Last year, in our second full year of operation, we had over 500 active startup teams working with us.
When Lassonde and the university approached us to look at this project, one of our first reactions was, this is completely unique. And kind of one of the hallmarks, at least to our practice, is really about invention. So for the first 3 or 4 months of the project, it was really about an investigation, research, kind of what the vision for the project was, redefining that vision, and then understanding how the best components of a dormitory and the best components of a garage could actually fit together in a synergistic way that would be more than a dormitory or more than a garage. And really what that did was it sort of deconstructed the entire program.
I'm an associate of the company launch space, which is our little incubator program down here in the garage where we host a lot of companies and we help them get started and get the resources they need to effectively launch. I really enjoy being able to sort of look up and just have all these really incredible people to sort of interact with and communicate with and collaborate with so much. That was sort of the dream going into Lassonde as a freshman, that I'd have all these interesting and really passionate people to work with and collaborate with. And then being able to do that and have all of those students and resources at my hands, it's encouraging. I will come to school some days just excited to be here.
In order to make it a safe environment for students for a 24-hour facility where we have 400 students living here, yet a ground floor that is open for use to the general student body 24 hours a day, we of course had to start by just creating a hard separation from public to private at that first to second floor. The building is accessible at the main floor. Card access is required to go up the elevators or stairs to get into the residential floors.
For the residential, the student housing areas, we wanted to carry that makerspace feel up through those levels, and just areas that would help promote community and gathering spaces to meet. In the pod areas, we've got these large kitchen islands, and that's really reflective of what you'd see it like in a home. And it's kind of like this table where everybody comes together as a community to cook together, to eat together, to share moments together. So that was a really important aspect of this design, as well as providing opportunities to have your own space if you need, or to break off into smaller groups if you're discussing something that's specific to the project you're working on. There just leaves opportunities for people to utilize the space as best for them, as well as for their comfort levels.
The themed communities are actually a really big part of Lassonde here. So it's a very cool experience to be able to step out of my room, which is this personal space, into somewhere where I know the general community kind of shares similar interests with me. So I live on the 4th floor, which is the outdoor adventure gear floor, but we have these awesome hanging swings, and I believe we've got a bike rack up there for doing small repairs, and all this cool stuff.
We've had some real success with getting student companies up and running and funded. So there's a company called Boundary Supply. It's still a group of students that are here in school. They're undergraduate students. They have a very cool urban modular backpack that they started. They really bootstrapped that with a little bit of funding from us. We gave them about $3,000 for materials and supplies and a couple of $1,000 to do their Kickstarter video. Their first Kickstarter video raised over $600,000, and they hit $1 million in revenue their first year, and are now at about $6 million in revenue and should get to $10 million in revenue last year.
Well, part of the vision of the project was to allow for flexibility for future needs. And so we wanted to create a building that reflected that ability, and that starts with the structure. What type of structural system are we going to use that will allow for not just changing of furniture, but allow for the overall changing of space without major modifications. So the design team developed a structural grid of equal spacing of columns, minimal ceiling interference as well. So we have an all-concrete structure with minimal beams. Being an entrepreneurial institute, you don't know what the next great thing will be in 10 years, and they want a building that could adapt to that.
We realized that this was going to be a student-owned space, a student-managed space, and that we need to have their input in the creativity of it, but also in the operations of it long-term. My staff and my team and faculty have no offices in the space. It's all student-driven, and it's their space. We run it with 160 students that are on scholarship, so they run the prototyping facility, and they run our company launch program, they run our workshops and our activities. So we're always continually recruiting new students in here, taking their input and evolving the program. So it's very organic and it's a living organism, and it changes almost daily in here.
You're free to ask questions, you're free to challenge yourself, and that's not something you find in traditional curriculums. But here at Lassonde Studios, that is exactly what it's about. It's about asking the big questions, it's about meeting people, it's about taking those risks in order to invest in your future. And the fact that the University of Utah has provided a space like that for us demonstrates a care for the development of their students as people, as leaders, as creators.